Well, as the Sandton Convention Centre comes to life, more people streaming in now. And this, of course, ahead of the heads of state who will be coming in a short while after 9. And, of course, there will be that opportunity for the family photo, as it is known, among other things. So still a lot to be discussed, still a lot of deliberations to be had here at the 15th BRICS Summit. But, of course, the SABC making sure that we have you covered and we make sure that everything that happens here comes your way as well. So Sophie Mokoena, you saw her earlier on during the broadcast. She's also here up bright and early, and we're just going to take a quick look at some of the issues that have been discussed, but also South Africa's interest. But I want to start, Sophie, first by looking at the people who are here. Let's do a quick roll call in terms of the heads of state who have arrived and who is still to arrive.
Have the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, who's expected to arrive later today, the President of Namibia, the Prime Minister of Botswana, the President of Indonesia. You still have those leaders who are expected to arrive today. Yesterday, we saw the arrival of the President of Cuba, who is going to be at Freedom Park this morning. You know the importance of Freedom Park in relation to the frontline states where countries such as Cuba contributed towards the liberation of the region, that is the SADC region, and the frontline states who were pushing to ensure that the whole southern part of Africa is free. You also have other important guests, the President of United Arab Emirates. You also have the Prime Minister of Ethiopia from the IGAD region who is expected to arrive. The President of South Sudan is already here, and among the men in particular, I must say, because it looks like it's a man's world, you have the only woman, the President of Tanzania, President Suluhu Hassan. And I think she is going to be a lone voice in terms of perhaps ensuring that even women issues are taken care of. We heard yesterday the President emphasizing that the focus will be on empowerment of women and youth in particular, but you have very few women voices.
South Africa is concerned, Sophie, you know, what is South Africa going to do to ensure that it advances its own causes during this BRICS Summit?
Well, you are correct, Sakina. When you look at member states of the BRICS, these are powerful nations in terms of trade and investment. These are countries who are well developed in terms of manufacturing. You don't want a situation where South Africa is a dumping ground. And I think the President of the Republic of South Africa, fighting for the interest of South Africans and the continent, he has to ensure that as they engage on trade and investment, you find a way that you don't have a situation where Africa is a dumping ground. Previously, we had regulations protecting our goods so that you can continue with industrialization and manufacturing, particularly in the textile industry. So you will have to find a way to ensure that we are not bleeding further. But yesterday, the Prime Minister of China pointed out that the relationship must be a relationship of equals, and therefore you have to level that playing field. We know that currently trade is skewed in favor of these big countries in terms of exports. Secondly, we are exporting raw material. The time has come for the continent to ensure that when we send out our products, they are finished goods, so that we can have a better return in terms of the mineral resources that we have on the continent. Two, you have to ensure that Or South Africa must remember that the continent has adopted a blueprint, the African Continental Free Trade Area, and the secretary of that important institution is our own, a South African. Therefore, you have to support him and support the continent to ensure that when they engage, they also take into consideration that you are engaging Africa and Africa is united, and you have to use the African Continental Free Trade Area to ensure that not only South Africa is benefiting, but other countries as well. You would recall when we had G8 then, and now G7, and Russia was still part of the G8. The then founding fathers of the NEPAD, Algeria, Ethiopia, South Africa, Senegal, and Nigeria, took a decision to ensure that they sell this African blueprint NEPAD to the G8. And Germany at that time, a powerful nation at the chairmanship of G8 and others, supported that blueprint. And you were negotiating an African developmental program. The president this time, it is his responsibility, like the four bears, to ensure that it is in line with what Africa is doing.